Hello ladies and gentlemen, Xcentaur here and welcome back to another YouTube video. Now in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make infinite flight as realistic as you possibly can as a user without like some fancy modifications happening to the mobile flight simulator. Now if you're new here and this is your first time on the channel, please make sure you like and subscribe. You might enjoy the content maybe, and it does mean a lot to me, all the support that everyone's showing. Now also just to let everyone know as well that the merch store is back available. There's a link down in the description. Now let's get straight into this video. Now you can see that I am currently in the Boeing 777-300ER in the Emirates airline, and I think the first thing you can do, which many people don't actually already do, is as soon as you spawn in, I'd connect all of these ground services. Now this just adds, the extra bit of realism of loading up your aircraft. Now that's the first thing you're going to want to do. And then the next thing you'll want to do is go inside the aircraft and just slowly start it up, main battery and APU on, no lights go on, and just put on the seat belts and that, because that's what I tend to do. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is very important with realism, and that's flight plans. And quite a lot of people don't make very realistic flight plans. Now I've made a video which shows you how to make a realistic flight plan, and I will try and leave a link in the description, but you're going to want to be using basically your procedures. So we'll just stick a random departure procedure. Let's use this one and let's confirm that and just add that onto our flight, and then we'll just go to this random airport here. I think it's Copenhagen, this one actually, and we'll just basically what you want to do is use an arrival one, and so we'll just select that, and then also use an approach one. I think we're on like runway 22 left or right, we'll use right, and then you just want to do it like that. So you want to make sure you use the SIDS and stars. Now, obviously you're going to have waypoints in between, but you can learn more about that on my flight plan tutorial, which is very good and very well in depth. Now, the importance of setting up these gates before you do this is that it gives time for people to go through here and board onto your aircrafts, here being the 777. Now, oh, there is a gap there. Since when has there been a hole in the roof? Anyone aware of that? So that's the first thing. So that ups the realism a lot, having a realistic flight plan using your SIDS and stars. So we're going to clear that anyway. Now the next thing I would worth recommending is, if you're playing online, make sure you use Unicom if there's no ATC for taxi. Unfortunately there's not one for pushback. Now the next bit of advice I'd like to give you for making infinite flight as realistic as possible is using infinite flight add-ons. Now the main one I'd recommend is Infinite Passengers. This is not a paid advertisement. I wish it was, but unfortunately it isn't. And all I recommend is, I can only show the free stuff because I'm not paying for the other stuff, is the bit that makes it more realistic for me is the boarding music and the safety briefings. So perhaps we'll be able to hear them if I start up the thing. So we're going to just do this and we're connected. Now hopefully we'll be able to hear boarding music, but we can't anyway. Okay, so we may be able to hear boarding music, maybe not. I'm just going to turn the boarding music off anyway, just in case you guys can't hear me over it. And we will put the safety briefing on though, however. So we're going to start that up and we're just going to connect it. So basically what I'm doing is getting a safety briefing, and what this does is it makes it so much more realistic. So while all of our stuff depart or leave the aircraft, and while they disengage, what the safety briefing does is it's literally as imagined. It is a literal safety briefing. Now you're going to do also, before you take off, you want to check your rudders. So you want to do stuff like the rudder checks and the tail fin check. So just tilt your phone or iPad up and down, and what this does again, it's just realistic stuff which pilots actually do. Now you can also go into free mode and do a pre-flight check. Obviously you do this before boarding, so you look at all of the stuff down here, the engines, make sure they're all good, and check all of the points of the aircraft. I'm not too sure where you actually check, but you just check the exterior of the aircraft. And then once we've done everything, we are going to put the parking brakes on, attach our tug, and push.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the captain and crew, welcome aboard this flight. We hope you enjoy flying with us. Before takeoff, we would like to encourage all passengers to watch our cabin crew.
Okay, so what you just heard there was the start to the safety briefing, and that will literally play until the briefing ends. It's about 2, maybe 3 minutes long, and it covers all of the time from the beginning of your pushback all the way to the end of your pushback. Now once we fully push back, I will show you the next thing you can do to make infinite flight as realistic as possible. Now it is worth noting that you do not want to have any of your lights on to increase realism until you have at least any engines running. Now I'm not too sure about the significance of the nav and the beacon lights, however I don't turn them on until I begin my engines. Now right here is where quite a lot of people would end up doing a quick start. Now a quick start is something I would never recommend when playing infinite flight. It's just something, or the auto start, sorry, it's something which I find a little bit cheating, and unless you're in a rush, then I suppose we can allow it. So unfortunately the 777 takes a little while for us to push it back, but we are very, very nearly there. And this aircraft is massive. It's a lovely aircraft out of all of them. In fact, it's one of the nicer Emirates aircraft of all of them. So we're just going to fully push back. Now, you guys might laugh at me for this, but the next thing is a very basic thing, is with your weather, no, sorry, it's the date and time. With the time, just press current time, and this gives you the current time. Now for the weather, you're going to have to, you know, set your own weather if you're using solo mode. However, if you're online, you don't need to worry about that, because right now, you know, I've just set a few clouds and that in the background and set them high and decrease the visibility. Now with your engines, you're going to put your nav and your beacon on, and you're going to start engine 2. Now I'm not too sure whether they come on then, but this is what I always put them on. And while engine 2 starts up, literally what I do is I go through here, I check everything's here is ready and all of that, blah blah blah, and I just, you know, I check all of this is started up. Now something else you want to do, which is again increases the realism of infinite flight, is you can use your 4 free mode cameras to go into the cabin and literally head to a window like this, and it will just lock onto a view like that. And these are really useful when in flight. So we'll go another one, we'll go to the front here maybe, and we'll get a view of the engine maybe. Can we see the engine? We can't see the engine from this one. We'll try one here, shall we? There we go. So again, we'll go to here and we'll get a view of the engine, and then you can use these ones for the cockpit as well to get different views of the cockpit, which will look really cool when in flight. So we've got another cockpit one and another one. So now what you've got here, again, it just makes it look a little bit more realistic, is after takeoff you can look out the window, you can see an engine, you can see the wing, and you've got different cockpit views. You can even get the jump seat view, which I think might actually be one of the main views on here. It's not the jump seat, there we go. So there is the jump seat view already here anyway, for use in the 777 cockpit. Now hopefully that second engine's all started up, so we can start up the next engine. And again, we're not doing anything to the flaps yet. Now while engine 2 is starting up, what I tend to do is I mess about with the trim. Now I put it to about 15% again, but that's not really realistic. You're going to want to Google what you want for your trim. So that is again a very important thing you're going to want to do. So just to quickly cheat while we don't have to wait, we're going to do an auto start. Now this doesn't actually do anything, it just will boot up the other engine for me. And now both engines are running. It's worth noting we're going to now bring down our flaps to 5 or 15, it depends on our weight. We're going to go for 5 just because it's long. So once both engines are live, I then put down the flaps, and then once flaps 1 and 2 are down, I am clear to taxi, and I use taxi etc to go to the airport, to the runway. Now we're going to go on to takeoff. Now again, I know a lot of people use HUD. Now that again decreases your realism in infinite flight, so you're not going to want to use HUD at all, or even the map. And if you want to use the map, you're going to have to go into it hardcore like this. Okay, so that's again a very important thing. Now if you do end up using HUD, or even not, you're going to want to enable the glide slope. Now if we go on to short final, the glide slope doesn't actually automatically attach itself, which is quite annoying. We are going to crash maybe? No. So what we want to do is to enable the glide slope, you just go onto the runways, and we crashed. Nope. What has happened? We're yeah, we're flying, we're zooming. So you're going to want to enable, sorry, for the final tip, you're going to enable the runways and asphalt, and you're just going to press set nav 1. And what this does is it brings on the glide slope, which you can now see which is that thing there. So now if we go into short final, it's still set, and it's still there, and you can see that the glide slope is actually way below where we want it to be. So that's how you turn on the glide slope. Now these are the main tips I have for making infinite flight as realistic as possible. If you have or want to know any more tips on how to make infinite flight realistic, let me know down below and I'd be happy to share them with you all. But these are just some of the basic tips with regards to takeoff. There's so many more tips I can give you for in-flight, such as takeoff, when to descend using VNAV and all that, so I could always do a part 2. If you did enjoy this, please make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Good night.
Find your way into this wonderland, cross the